Hello everyone. So, this is the second video where I am going to talk about the structure, necessity of structure in developing e-learning content. So, in the second video we are going to talk about the importance of cognitive levels. What are cognitive levels, what are the cognitive levels and why they are important and how they should be incorporated into the structure. The instructional objectives that we have been talking about, we saw that the objectives had to be very specific, measurable and observable. But one more aspect of the objectives remains to be described, and that is the level of the objective. So, before structuring an objective, before formulating an objective, we need to be clear in our own minds what should be the level or the depth of the objective. An example of this would be that suppose you are teaching Macbeth. Macbeth can be taught in class 6, Macbeth can be taught in class 12, Macbeth can be taught in the postgraduate level, but the treatment of the topic in each class would be different. The level, the depth of the treatment would be different. So, depending on what is your course outcome, what is the goal of your course, who is taking the course, what the person who is taking the course would be required to do after taking the course, you have to determine the level up to which you will be treating the course, you will be addressing the course. So, this level or depth of the course is to be stated in the instructional objectives also. So, instructional objectives need to talk about the specificity, the observable attitude and the measurable aspect and also the level and the depth of the objective. So, this objective, the depth or level or depth of the objective is important not only in determining what the objective, the treatment should be, also it is important in deciding how you are going to teach the course and what kind of questions you would be creating to test whether the student or the learner has attained the expertise level you have assigned the course. So, all of this depends on the level of the course. So, we need to see what these levels are. The most basic level are the levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy deals with levels in the cognitive domain, the affective domain and the psychomotor domain. But in most cases when we are developing e-content, we are usually restricted to the cognitive domain. In cognitive domain we have these 6 levels. These are hierarchical levels starting from the lowest level at the bottom, which is the knowledge, then comes comprehension, then application, then analysis, then synthesis, and the highest level in the basic Bloom's taxonomic model is evaluation. So, we have to remember that these levels are hierarchical levels, which implies that a person can go to the next higher level only when he or she has attained the lower level. And alternatively, it also implies that a person who has reached a higher level, any given level, has already mastered the lower levels under that particular higher level. So, keeping these things in mind, we have to decide that when we create our instructional objectives, which level we should assign the objective to. Now, first let us see what are the levels and what they imply. The lowest level is knowledge. So, knowledge here in Bloom's taxonomy does not imply wisdom. In general life, in everyday life, when we talk about knowledge, we assume that it means wisdom, it means expertise. But in Bloom's taxonomy, knowledge implies just memorization, blind memorization. So, anybody who just memorizes something, if you make an instructional objective which calls for only memorization, that instructional objective will be in the knowledge level. The next higher level is comprehension. Here the person or the learner is required to learn a little bit more than blind memorization. He or she needs to have a better understanding, a better grasp of the material more than the blind understanding. And in the next higher level we have application. Application usually means that the person is able to apply whatever knowledge he or she has gained from the two lower levels, comprehension and knowledge, and apply it to a new situation. In analysis, a person is required to take apart any given situation or any given problem into its component parts and find out what are the component parts in that given situation. So, it is basically dealing with taking apart. When a learner is able to take apart the given components in a situation, he is supposed to have reached the analysis level. Synthesis level is just the other side of analysis level. So, after a person is able to take apart, analyze the situation and take apart the component parts, he is also able to put the parts together back to solve some problem. So, when a person is able to do that, he is in the synthesis level. And the highest level, which is evaluation, it is basically dealing with judgment. So, let us just have a little detailed look at the different levels. Knowledge is blind memorization. So, when a child learns a multiplication table blindly, the child is in the knowledge level. In comprehension level, the child will be able to grasp that multiplication is nothing but a form of addition. So, when he or she is able to do that, he or she would be in the comprehension level. Usually any problem which calls for translation not only from one language to another, maybe from a given data to a graph, any kind of translation from one form of communication to another form of communication, it will usually fall in the comprehension level. Summarization, translation, these kind of things. In the application level, the main important thing to remember is that the application of the two previous levels, whatever knowledge and comprehension level the person has attained, all those things have to be applied in a new situation. The situation or the problem has to be new. If it is something that the learner has already done before in class or in any other exercise, then it will not be in the application level. So, it has to be a new situation. In analysis level, usually it is about recognizing interrelationships between the different aspects of a problem, or recognizing a hypothesis. So, what kind of interrelationships? Is it a cause effect relationship? Is it a chronological relationship? What kind of relationship is there? So, recognizing these relationships or even recognizing the hypothesis that is in the situation, that would fall in the analysis level. These are some of the examples, these are not exhaustive, this is just to give you an idea what each level implies. Synthesis usually would consist of design problems or in any kind of problem solving situations. So, if a person is required to create a new design, say design a hardware, software, whatever, or a problem is given, something is not working, software is not working, something is not working, the student is required to find out what the problem is and solve the problem, that would call for understanding or learning in the synthesis level. And evaluation, the person would be in such a level of expertise that the person would be able to make judgments. So, whatever knowledge, whatever wisdom he has gained from all the previous levels, he will use that to make a judgment using criteria which may be externally given or internal, but he has to use everything that he has learned before in all the levels and make the judgment regarding a situation. How do we incorporate these levels into the instructional objectives? We have already seen that instructional objectives are usually made with action verbs. Now, some of the action verbs which fall in each of these levels are given here. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, just a sample. There may be many other action verbs also in each of these levels. So, if you look at the action verbs given here, you will see that the action verbs which are against the knowledge level are all calling for recall or memorization mostly. So, identifiers, lists, these are all calling for memorization. The next level, the most common action verbs would be classifies, explains, summarizes, and application level demonstrates, computes, solves. So, it is not that this is some kind of a template that if you use demonstrates, it will fall in the application level. It has to be, you have to look at the whole instructional objectives in the total context, but usually if you use these action verbs in these levels, the instructional objectives will fall in that level of learning. So, if you want to make a instructional objective in the application level, you could use some of the verbs given here and also check whether it is asking for application level knowledge from the learner. So, you cannot use the verbs out of context, but if you use it within given context, it will usually help you. Similarly, these action verbs against each of these levels of analysis, synthesis and evaluation usually will result in creation of instructional objectives in these specific levels. So, combines, creates, all of these calls for problem solving situations and they will be in the synthesis level. So, this is the video for this subject. In the next video, we will see how the action verbs and the levels can be combined together to make clear instructional objectives. Thank you.